Okay, here we are with another ISN page. I know you're loving it. So here we go. We're going to cut on the bold like we always do, and we're going to fold on the dotted like we always do. So if you like to shut this off while you're doing your cutting, feel free to do that, and then just get back to me when you have your cutting done. But I'm going to try to do it quickly and cut quickly so you'll be able to know what we're doing here. So the first thing is this is my title. So that's going to go right there. We're going to glue that title page. Easy enough. Second thing I'm going to have is my hints page. And my hints page always has that dotted line so that you can fold it up and only use the hints when you need to. So eventually, hopefully, you don't always have to use the hints. So you'll notice on the hints page, it basically says you add and subtract positive and negative fractions the way you would whole numbers and integers. So go back to those pages in your book of adding and subtracting integers to remember how to do that. If they're the same sign, you add them and keep the sign. If you are subtracting, if they're different signs, you would subtract them and give it the bigger sign. And then you convert rational numbers to the same form to add or subtract. So what they're talking about is when you've got fractions, you want to get a common denominator. That's the same form. Or if you've got one fraction and one decimal, you want to change either the fraction to the decimal or the decimal to the fraction to add or subtract. So it just kind of helps you know if it's in the same form. So your hints just go on your page with your hints. Okay? So that just is going to get glued down, just the back side of it, so that can open up. The next piece is going to be, these are just rules to help you remember or steps to follow to take care of rational numbers when you're going to do stuff. So again, we're cutting on the bold, but we're going to fold on the dotted. And on the outside of this, we're just going to write steps to follow. Steps to follow. And then we're going to glue that right in there as well. So that'll be glued right there. But the steps to follow basically say, are the numbers already in the same form? Are the negative subtractants used? Do fractions have a common denominator? Step 2 would be to change the numbers to the same form, use the additive inverse and add for negative subtractants, and then answer the problem. So those are just reminders of what to do. So that's going to be glued on there. The next piece is this. And what it is it's basically 3 strips that are going to be glued on top of each other with the flaps. So you're going to notice this is going to be the very top one, and that's a dotted line. So we're not going to cut on the dotted. We're going to cut on the bolds. And what's going to happen is you're going to cut each one just into that dotted line, so it kind of like is a flippy book again. If you had Mr. Carter last year, you probably know all about flippy notes. Anyway, that's just a side note for those people in 6-1. And here we go. That's going to be our top page. And here's going to be our other one. So we're going to get ready to glue pretty soon. If you borrow any of my scissors or glue, please make sure you put them back away when you're done with them instead of leaving them in a desk. This is kind of tall, so maybe we'll put these 2 things on the side. And we'll have this be over here. Notice you're just going to glue the strip so that you can actually have the bottom to write on. So we're just going to glue on that little strip. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put my title page down so that that doesn't keep moving on me. And then I'm going to put this hints page down. I get some things not moving on me. The middle of this section can go down so that it can open up and you can see your steps. In case you have forgotten what order to do things in, you've always got that. Then on this one, we're just going to do that strip on the very edge. And this is going to end up being kind of like a book because you're going to put this on top. So like have pages in a book. So you're only going to, again, glue on that very small strip. We're going to put that on top, right on top. See, we're making a book here. And then we're going to put this very last one, just that strip again. And we're going to put that on top of that gray portion. So then your job is going to be to actually, in the book, you can use a pencil, you can use your pretty colors or whatever. But we want to take this and actually solve it in our book one step at a time. So if you've forgotten how to do it, you can look back in here to know what steps you're going to do. I will actually do the first two with you, and then you can try the last three and then check my book for your answers. So the very first one on the first page, when you flip this over, we want to make sure that it's in the, are they in the same form? And yes, they both are fractions, but they do not have a common denominator. And that's, so they are in the same form. Are the negative subtractants used? Yes, we have a negative, and then we have a common denominator. So remember, when you're doing subtracting, we're going to add the opposite. So I'm going to write negative 6/8. I'm going to change it to a plus, and then I'm going to change the 4/5 to a negative 4/5. So that's my first change I'm going to do. I'm going to make it adding, because when we subtract, we add the opposite. So remember, we're adding a line and changing the sign. So just like we did in integers, but we got fractions. So it's a little bit uglier. Now it said about the common denominators. We need to get a common denominator. Well, on your product chart, you can find that 8 and 5, a common denominator could be 40. So we're going to make these both 40ths. So if I make them both 40ths, and I have a plus in the middle, and they're both going to be negative, my 8 times my 5 gets to 40, so my 6 times my 5 gets to negative 30. Then I'm going to do my second one. My 5 times my 8 gets to 40, so 4 times my 8 gets to 32, and remember, both were negative. So now we have a common denominator. We changed the form, and now we're going to answer the question. We got 40ths, so negative 30 plus a negative 32. Remember, when adding both of them negative, it's going to be a bigger negative. So it's going to be negative 62 40ths. So turn the page one more time. Negative 62 40ths. And then, of course, we never leave it that way. We would change it into not an improper fraction anymore. So 40 goes into 62 one full time. And then there's still 22 left. 22 40ths. And, of course, now we can see if we can divide by 2, 3, or 5. You can always write those right up here. So I can divide them by 2 for 11 20ths. So it's going to be negative 1 and 11 20ths is my final answer on that one. And it's going to be a little bit uncovered, but that's okay. You can still see all the steps as you go through. So I'm going to do one more so you can see how we do it by the pages, and then I'm going to have you do the next 3 to check your answers with my book when you're finished. So one more. 3.1 plus 8/4. They are not in the same form. So on the next page, I think I'd like to make them both decimals, because I like adding decimals better. They're easier. So on my next page, and it's already adding, so I don't need to change it. So it's going to be 3.1 plus, what is 8 divided by 4? Because remember, fractions are small division problems. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I can just say 3.1 plus 2. So then on my next page, and they're both already positive, so with them being the same sign, I can just add them together. Of course, you always line them up with the decimal points, so 3.1 plus 2 is like 2.0. So if I add them together, my final answer is 5.1. So that's how you do those two. So your luck is to go and change these 3 and see if you can get them right on your own. And then you can start your flipped classroom for 2.1. Thank you. 2.2, I'm sorry, the flipped classroom for 2.2.